Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your pharaoh of physical media. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett, coming at you, imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. I am Robcasting at you today. Today is Robservations episode number 498, people. 498. Oh my God. Does that mean I take tomorrow off? Do I take Friday off? I don't know. I guess episode 500 is going to happen on Saturday. But you know what? It's going to be scaled back. It's not going to be, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't done interviews. As I said, it's going to be all about you guys. And the way it should be. I've already been getting some great videos in. I got another video from BL Alley about whining about movies, which we're going to play tonight. So if you want to send me videos, you want to send me letters for the 500th show, that will be on Saturday. Robservations 500 show, celebrating the Post-Geek Singularity, celebrating y'all. So please send me videos, please send me letters. I'll play them all, whatever you're going to send me. And you can go to the Burnettwork.net website and send them to me. If you go into the top right corner, you'll see the link where you can send me letters and send me videos. It's going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. Fun. This is probably going to be a short show today, relatively short. We are coming back with the first whining about movies of the week. We are going to watch the film Swallow. If you have not seen Swallow, we've picked Swallow for our 69th episode. Aren't we cheeky? That'll be tonight at 7:30. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 7:30. Gentle beings, kind souls, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies, Swallow, our 69th episode tonight. My God, how much fun will that be? It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, I got to put on my glasses and get right into it. First of all, there was an article. This is kind of neat. DC FanDome was a big success. A big success. While the San Diego Comic-Con online event was seen as a disastrous failure, Warner Media's DC FanDome event over the weekend is being ruled a big success. According to the studio, the DC FanDome Hall of Heroes event generated 22 million views across 220 countries and territories over its 24-hour run via the in-house player, live streams by comic book influencers, and other content generated by fans watching the event. That would be me too. I generated content because I was a fan watching the event. That doesn't include the numbers from the trailers themselves, with trailers like The Batman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Wonder Woman 1984 pulling in over 150 million views since Saturday. That's pretty impressive. The DC FanDome hashtag also trended on Twitter in 53 markets and on YouTube in 82 markets, according to Variety. Now, I have to say, look, the cynic in me, I understand. It was just a big commercial event advertising DC and Warner Brothers product. But after all, that's what Comic-Con is too. I have no problem with that. And with their desire, look, DC included artwork from all over the world. They had fans from all over the world hosting. I thought it was a good event. You know, DC had a lot to celebrate, and I have a lot of upcoming material that we imagination connoisseurs will be interested in. And I have to say, I ultimately, the DC FanDome event, I felt was a good event. I'm glad it happened, and I think it brought joy and happiness, certainly to me. We can all use a little bit more joy and happiness in our lives, and I'm all for it. I think it was great. I'd love to see more events like this. I like this kind of fan engagement. I like this kind of fan enthusiasm. I was enthused, and I think more along these lines. Please give me more. I want more. I think that's good, and I think that why shouldn't we have this kind of happiness in our life? After all, what more do you want? What's life all about? Interesting story that's dropped at noon today. 3 hours ago, dropped at noon. I'm sure many of you have already heard about this. I find this very interesting on a number of levels. So, we all know COVID has created all kinds of havoc in the entertainment industry. Well, it's going to create havoc for Star Trek fans everywhere. So Deadline reports, according to Peter White, at noon today. So everybody, y'all know that at least in North America, the only way to watch Star Trek Discovery has been on CBS All Access. It has been on Amazon and it's been on Netflix around the world, so other people have had access to it, but not in North America. Well, today, because television production has been curtailed, CBS announced that Star Trek Discovery is going to air on broadcast television. It's going to air on CBS for free. I guess they figure everyone who already had CBS All Access has seen Star Trek Discovery. And I think from a network perspective, they're thinking, well, how much can it hurt us if more people see it? Well, I would say that might be premature to say something like that because, look, as everyone knows, I don't want to belabor the point, but let's just say I am not a fan of Star Trek Discovery, nor have I been a fan of what CBS has done with Star Trek, the whole franchise. I don't care what the stewards. I don't care for much of what the stewards of the franchise of Star Trek have done since 2009. But now, Star Trek Discovery is going to be able to be seen by, well, heck, my mother. And as a matter of fact, I am going to have my mother review it. I'm going to have my mother review Star Trek Discovery because now it's going to be on. It's going to be on for free. And how funny would it be to have Bob's mom review Star Trek Discovery? I mean, that's going to be comedy gold right there. Let me tell you. I hope she has a microphone. I want to set her up or maybe she can do it on her smartphone. Oh, who am I kidding? My mom doesn't have a smartphone. But anyway, more people are going to see it. Plus, it's going to get ratings every week. We will now have ratings for Star Trek. How's that going to work? It'll be interesting to see. They're going to sell advertising. I'm curious, do the contracts with Star Trek Discovery has only been available on streaming services. When something like this goes to broadcast television and they're selling advertising, does that change? Does that affect the contracts of those people involved in the creation of the show? Because it wasn't supposed to be this way. It's very curious. From an industry standpoint, I'm very curious how this is all going to work. Maybe it's no big deal. But I am curious, how's the WGA going to feel about this? What about residuals? Do they kick in? Or were their initial contracts buyouts? And if they were buyouts, does that mean they get shafted on residuals now that it's going to go on to broadcast television? How does that work out? I don't know. It does instill in my mind many, many questions. So anyway, here's the article that Deadline put out at noon, PST. CBS had Star Trek Discovery, One Day at a Time, and Manhunt Deadly Games to the fall schedule as Net eyes November launch for scripted originals. CBS has reshuffled its early fall schedule with a mix of acquisitions, scripted series from other areas of the company, and non-scripted programming as it deals with the ongoing impact of COVID-19. The broadcast network is adding Star Trek Discovery, One Day at a Time, and Spectrum's Manhunt Deadly Games, as well as a documentary spin-off of FBI to the schedule in November and October. This comes as CBS hopes to roll out its previously announced schedule of scripted dramas and comedies in November. Its drama SWAT is already in production. NCIS and NCIS LA have early September start dates, with a number of other scripted shows to follow. The move will mean that there will be at least 2 to 3 hours of original programming or new to CBS per night across the week on the network in September and October. Despite the global pandemic, this is comparable to last year. Well, there are 15 episodes of the first season of Star Trek Discovery, so we'll see how that works. This is hardly a traditional fall season, but we are prepared with a strong slate of original content while our regular scripted series begins production, says Kelly Call, president, CBS Entertainment. Based on our current timeline, we hope to start rolling out our previously announced fall series as they become available in November. Manhunt Deadly Games, which stars Cameron Britton, Jack Houston, Judith Light, and Carla Gugino, will premiere on CBS on Monday, September 21st at 10 p.m. The Lionsgate TV and Spectrum co-production, which is a follow-up to Discovery's Manhunt Unabomber drama, began airing on Spectrum's on-demand platform in February. It tells the story of the manhunt that ensued following the deadly terrorist attack at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. The acquisition makes sense as Spectrum is not available in all parts of the country, so it gives viewers around the country the chance to watch it, and it gives CBS a fully produced drama to air as it waits for its originals to return. Another Spectrum drama series, LA's Finest, landed on Fox's COVID-proof fall schedule. The first season of CBS All Access Star Trek Discovery will air on the network beginning Thursday, September 24th at 10 p.m. The first episode of the Alex Kurtzman and Brian Fuller created series aired on CBS in September of 2017 as a promotion ahead of the digital run. See, if they call it a promotion, then they aren't. Guild rules don't apply. It's promotion, man. We're putting it out for free. But this marks the first time that a full season is available on linear TV in the U.S. It also comes ahead of the launch of the Sonequa Martin Green-fronted third season, which begins airing on CBS All Access on October 15th. So from a business standpoint, hey, if you like Star Trek Discovery Season 1, you can jump right in and join CBS All Access and see more of it. So from that perspective, it's great. But if it gets bad ratings, what if Star Trek Discovery gets canceled? Or is CBS going to run all 15 episodes? They might have to without anything there. But boy, it'll be really interesting to see how the Gen Pop thinks of CBS All Access's Star Trek Discovery, watching it on broadcast television, which I would presume will have commercials in it. So that's new. How's that going to work? We shall soon see. Frankly, I think that's pretty ballsy of all of us, or all of them, or for all of us. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see. I just don't know what that means. I really don't know. It's crazy. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what a whole new wave of people think of the show. How does it play on broadcast TV? I don't know. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch, if I do say so myself. So that's sort of exciting news that dropped today. Man, I'll tell you, crazy times we live in. This first letter comes from Lubna Khan, our friend Lubna Khan. Hello. Regarding Batman. So apparently it's going to be really dark now. So thusly I envision the progression. The Dark Knight. The Darker Knight. The Darkest Knight. Even darker than dark. Darker than ever. Did you think it was dark before? Batman. Just bring a flashlight. And a Batman film with not only Messrs. Affleck and Keaton and Pattinson, but also grab every other Batman they can lay their hands on and call it An Abundance of Batman. Perhaps introduce a touch of levity as a tribute to the late Mr. Adam West. I tease. From Lubna. P.S. On a serious note, I just wanted to say that your Elizaviews episode about Do the Right Thing was brilliant, and Claudius was a wonderful addition. Such interesting, intelligent, thoughtful, and thought-provoking discourse. I'd like to add to Claudius's thought. I believe people take the worst stereotypes associated with any group and assume it is the norm, as if any person they meet that does not fit that assumed mold is the exception. I do wish people would just stop putting labels on anyone. By the way, that was her side. It was written side. I just sighed for real. It was not my side. I do just wish people would stop putting labels on everyone. Lubna, I agree with you. For those of you who don't know, you might want to, if you've never watched Whining About Movies, Elizabeth and I have a show called Whining About Movies where we drink wine and talk about movies. And last Friday we did Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. It was our first film. 68, took us 68 movies to finally get to a director of color. And we did Do the Right Thing, and Claudius came on. Claudius is one half of the official couple of the Burnettwork. Of course, his lovely, delightful wife, Candida, is the other half, and their son, Spencer, as I guess, would be the adoptive son. Although he's not really adopted because he's their son, but he's adopted by the Burnettwork. But it was great to have him on there. I thought it was essential to have him as part of the discussion. And I thought it was really good. So tonight we're doing the movie Swallow. and he will not be on because I think that, well, I think I don't, you know what, I can make an inappropriate joke here, but I won't. Anyway, tonight, 7:30, Swallow. Interesting body horror film. So, yeah, check it out. Thanks for writing in. Appreciate it. William La Rochelle is back. William La Rochelle says, "Hi, Rob. You mentioned liking movies about the return of Jesus Christ. So here's a 10-minute short from 9 years ago, The Fashion of the Christ. It has a reference to near the end relevant to imagination connoisseur content." Well, I think, it's not so much the idea of first of all, I find all religion fascinating, but obviously I grew up in a world that was shaped by Judeo-Christian belief. And the idea of the Savior, or as we say, the Moshiach, the Messiah, all of that's fascinating to me. And I've always been curious. You can't not read the New Testament and wonder what would happen if Christ did, in fact, come back. And from a storytelling standpoint, I would love to know what that would be like. By the way, here is that link to that film. Yeah, I mean, I'd want to know what that would be. Think about what would happen to our culture. Forget whether you believe whatever you believe personally, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Hindu, whether you're a Buddhist, whatever you are. I would hope that the idea of a religious leader, a famed, even if, let's say, Muhammad came back, but the idea, how will that affect our world today? I find that idea irresistible. It has such wide-ranging ramifications that I think from a storytelling standpoint, it would be amazing. William goes on to say, if you like that one, the same Jesus is in a 1-minute short, what would Jesus do? I was guarding a landmark, so I let my friend be the last person to skate on the original rink pad of a Toronto landmark before that park was demolished. So I'll put that in there too. Again, I don't know this movie, but I'll put this in there. Put this down. Oh, you know what? It's the same link. I didn't copy it correctly. Let me copy it correctly and put it in there. So again, this live link is for What Would Jesus Do? By the way, I'm putting these in on the fly. I take no responsibility at all for this content. Finally, if you get through that, there was an Oxberry animation, 1 minute and 15 seconds, which rounds out that theme. Jaws versus Jesus. A clipping of a famous actor with additional beard is used for Jesus Christ. No pressure to watch, but here they are. Yeah, these, I mean, while, I mean, making fun of or doing Jesus movies like this is, I'm more interested in, really from a very serious speculative standpoint, what would it be like if Christ came back to earth? I guess that would mean, would the book of Revelations be coming to pass, or what if he just came back? How would he be received? I'm fascinated by this concept. I don't know if it would necessarily be good. I don't know if it would be bad. I don't know how it would go, but I know that I've always been interested in stories like that just to see. Hey, our old friend, Enterprise H, NCC 1701H is here. I haven't heard from him in a while. How are you? Pharaoh of Physical Media, greetings. First, did you happen to play a Let's Play of the game Generations? I have not. I know, I have not. I have not. Secondly, I don't know if you heard, but Congregate has halted new uploads to their site, and this does not bode well for its continued existence. This is a place which hosts the Medieval Cop series, which is about Dreg Morris, a depressed cop who hates the post office. I highly recommend this series to anyone who likes Phoenix Wright games. Anyway, so now the series will have to be published elsewhere. They were always online-only releases, but it does show you how easily these things could have been erased had the author no longer been around. I say that, but while their creators are still around, most Star Trek games aren't even available for purchase anymore. Enterprise H, NCC 1701H. Well, that's a bummer. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I need to go check out. I always forget to go check that out. So I apologize. This next one comes from Mr. Brown. Hello, Rob. Wednesday is Tenet Day. Regards. Well, Mr. Brown, I guess you were going to see Tenet. Rub it in. Rub it in. Why don't you? What a bummer that I cannot go see it. This comes from our boy Bunyan Snipe, the winner of this, the 4K Flash. Oh, he saved every one of us. He will get it. Bunyan Snipe has sent me his address. You know what, though? It would be easier for me just to order one for him from Amazon UK and have it sent directly to his house, because who knows with our post office how much this would cost or how long it would take to get there. If it winds up in a package that looks like the package that Dieter Bastian sent me from Germany, it might not be worth it. So maybe I'll just, a prize is a prize, but that way I could give another one away. Hey, so Bunyan, look out for that. So that's exciting. Let's see. Kenneth St. Bernard is here. Kenneth St. Bernard says, Rob, I left a long comment on your show today, 8/24/20. Sorry about that. But I had more to say on the classic horror genre. I would love to see you do more shows on classic horror, but I would like you to give us the benefit of your professional opinions on the cinematography, musical scores, direction, and the production values of the films that you hopefully choose to discuss with us. Forgive me for writing so much, but there are several series of films that deserve your attention. The Frankenstein films starring Boris Karloff, the several versions of The Phantom of the Opera, The Mummy with Karloff and Zita Johann, a great actress who is never talked about these days, The Invisible Man with Claude Rains, and The Wolfman starring Claude Rains and Lon Chaney. There are also several versions of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, beginning with the John Barrymore 1920 version and including the Richard March 1931 version, which is still the only pure horror movie performance to win an Academy Award. I would love to hear your opinions on this long list of classic horror films. Would even love it more if you could do one of them with the ace on whining about movies. Sorry for the long email. Love your show. That wasn't a long email. That's a good idea. We haven't done that. For Romantic Friday, we should do Bride of Frankenstein. I think it's a good idea, Kenneth. I love talking horror. It's one of my favorite genres. I don't do it nearly enough. Omar 94 is here. Hi, Rob. This letter is a response to Vesna's letter about Batman v Superman. I have always hated, in the comics and adaptations, how Superman gets powered down when fighting Batman, and sometimes other characters, but mostly Batman. I don't know why, but for some reason, DC likes to give Batman the title of being the company's flagship character, as well as plot armor, to the point he can practically defeat anyone and do anything. He's been so overpowered that he's pretty much a god. He can do things like hold his breath underwater for over 3 minutes and survive in outer space for 27 seconds. If I was running DC, that would never be the case, mandating that Batman maintains his human strengths and weaknesses and does not ever win a fight against Superman. Realistically, Superman should always defeat Batman, or really almost anyone, because he's Superman. He can just flick his finger, use his speed, strength, or whatever, and Batman is done. Unfortunately, that never happens, and the writers don't seem to use common sense. Also, I would make Superman DC's flagship character. If any character should be DC's flagship hero, it needs to be Superman. He's the first and most important superhero, not just for DC, but for comics in general. So it would make sense he is the face of DC as well as its mascot. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, Omar, I don't necessarily disagree, but I think Batman has been more successful in the media across multiple platforms. Video games, movies, TV shows. I think the problem with Superman is he's less relatable than Batman. I think everybody sort of relates more to Batman than Superman. But, I think Superman is a flagship superhero. I don't think Superman's been as lucrative in certain arenas as in other places. So that's why that is the case. So that's it. But it's not a bad idea. But I just think Batman is probably cooler than Superman. Calvin Bose is here. Dear Rob, this is a follow-up to my last letter concerning the HBO Perry Mason series. You were asking about the source material. Perry Mason was created by Earl Stanley Gardner, who himself was a lawyer. In his spare time, he would write mystery stories for pulp magazines for a penny a word. A funny thing he would always say about writing in those days is never have someone shot once, because bang pays 4 cents and bang, 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 bang pays 24 cents. He created Perry Mason in his 30s, and his first book was The Case of the Velvet Claws. He got the name because his school weekly readers as a kid were put out by the Perry Mason Publishing Company. Perry Mason in the books is given no real backstory. He's a lawyer who only takes cases he's interested in. He has an office in L.A., and he has two secretaries, Gertie, who works in the front office, and his confidential secretary, Della Street. If he needs extra help, he uses the Paul Drake Detective Agency, and Paul's a handsome ladies' man. There is a possibility of a romance between Della and Perry, but that is never confirmed. Now, the books became so popular that Perry Mason became a daytime soap opera on radio, but Gardner was unhappy with the show, so Mason was removed, and the show became The Edge of Night. In the 40s, there were some movies starring Warren William as Perry Mason, and they are pretty forgettable. In the 50s, Perry Mason came to TV in the iconic series. The show was very faithful to the source material. As a matter of fact, many of the episodes were adapted directly from the books, and Raymond Burr, who at the time was most known for playing bad guys, became the most famous lawyer in fiction. After the show ended, it became big in reruns in the 60s, and that was when I started watching. Now, in the 70s, they tried to bring Mason back in a new Perry Mason starring Monty Markham. It only lasted one season. The 80s was the best for Perry Mason fans because that was when Raymond Burr came back in a bunch of Perry Mason TV movies, and he made them until he died. Interesting thing is that when he was dying, he asked the movies still be made without him and have guest lawyers so the people in his movies would not be out of work. Now, this brings me to the HBO series. There are some things I liked about it, that is, after he becomes a lawyer and he's in court trying a murder, but giving him a sleazy backstory. Now, you asked about this, and as you see, I gave you more info on Perry Mason than you probably wanted to know. No, I wanted to know. But I ask you, please, before you watch the HBO show, you watch some original episodes of Raymond Burr's Mason, because if you do, you will see the case of Calvin's dilemma. I used to watch Perry Mason when I was a kid. I like Perry Mason, but I understand where you're coming from. That wouldn't be a good thing. Sean McCommons is here. Sean says, the Prime Directive. I was recently having a conversation regarding the Prime Directive with another Star Trek fan who thinks the Prime Directive is not a good idea. I don't want to construct a straw man or make anyone look bad, but verbatim, their argument is this. Star Trek fan, the Prime Directive is poorly thought out in the TNG era Trek. Arguments in favor of the Prime Directive basically boils down to God must be directing the cosmos, therefore it would be hubris for us to interfere and save this doomed planet. They carry that shit straight into Enterprise, where Phlox and Archer allow an entire species to die from an easily curable genetic disease because they think it's wrong to interfere with the natural development of the universe. My reply is this. Right, but let's examine that. Let's say, as a given, your cure is effective. You save those who are sentient, according to whose scale, by the way, but let's leave that out. What do you do with non-sentients who have the same version of the virus? The vaccine starts another contagion that is worse than the first 50 years down the road, as antibiotics have the potential to do. Do you continue to save everyone every 50 years? Do you go around the galaxy looking for everyone to save? Maybe just the cute fuzzy aliens, but not spiders? What if your cure leads to saved people being servants on their own planet 500 years down the road? At least you saved them, right? According to Cortez's own society, he was doing the right thing every time he saved a soul. What if the aliens don't want to be healed or told what to do, even if it is their own best interests? Or what if it's really not in their best interests? Do they get a choice? Once any of all of those things happen, and they will because humanity is not perfect, what is the next choice? By the way, once any of these issues have arisen, anything you do will tend to compound the problem. What it comes down to is that Cortez thought he was right, too. 500 years later, almost all the evidence points in the other direction. Should the Federation have stopped him as well, and what would that look like today? The Federation doesn't play these games because human history has shown where this path leads time and time again. This is why Star Trek is compelling. It's not about superheroes or gods. It's about real, difficult decisions that have consequences being made by fallible people. Hence why the Prime Directive exists in the Star Trek universe. Sure, saving some people from plague makes our heroes look nice in an easily digestible 44-minute segment, but it avoids the consequences. By the way, Star Trek is just a TV show, but far from the Federation being wrong, as you put it, is remarkably well thought out. Well, Sean Sean, this is an interesting letter. So, really, the Prime Directive basically states that you can't interfere in the normal development of a planet. And I understand that, and I think mostly because let's face it, there are many dangers involved. There are many dangers involved because what you risk doing is perverting the normal development of people. So what happens is large growths in, say, technology wouldn't necessarily be accompanied by large doses of morality. So maybe having too much technology will lead to nuclear war, and nuclear winter, and the civilization you're trying to save gets snuffed out. I think that's the basic gist of all of it. You don't want to do that. I mean, look at Earth. Let's say the Enterprise shows up on Earth and you wanted to give replicator technology to somebody. Well, who would you give it to? Would you give it to the Americans? Would you give it to the Chinese, the Russians, the Brits, the Indians? I mean, replicator technology would change human history. You could literally take other matter and transmute it via transporter technology, replicator technology, into food. I mean, how amazing would that be? It would be incredible, but it would also if you only gave it to one country, that would start a world war, and then you'd probably lose the planet all over the post-scarcity culture that would be created. So the thing is, it's not just fixing a problem, it's making sure that civilization is prepared enough that they can move forward as a civilization without destroying themselves. And there's not a whole lot of evidence to the contrary. Now, you brought up like a disease. I think there's a way to go down and cure diseases. I don't necessarily think a disease is a natural disaster. And while people could say that, well, societies have to deal with natural disasters, but I think the whole point is that you want to preserve the sanctity of life. And if there's a civilization that's looking like they're pretty good, maybe they're pre-warp, but they're very enlightened, they have great art, they have great literature, the people are very, very nice, wouldn't you want to save them if, say, a comet was about to hit their planet? The question is, could you save them without them knowing that you saved them? It's all very interesting. It's all very wacky. But yeah, it's. I think it's a slippery slope, and Star Trek has always played fast and loose. But I understand where they're coming from. I believe in the Prime Directive, But there's plenty of times when Kirk destroys something like Landru, and you could say, well, you've interfered with the natural development of this planet. But I would say in a situation like that, the natural development of the planet was actually retarded. It was retarded by the advent of Landru. So the society never grew past where Landru was turned on. And so and by the way, when I say retarded, I'm using the actual real meaning of the word. I'm not disparaging human beings. I'm saying their civilization, the growth of their civilization was retarded by the application or the arrival of Landru. And I don't think by destroying the Landru computer, you're necessarily, because Landru already interfered with the normal development of that planet. And once that has happened, if you can mitigate the damage and try and put something back to where it used to be, I think that's probably a good thing. I do. But I'm a fan of the Prime Directive. I don't think people should necessarily interfere. And your questions are good. Let's take these a point at a time. A, those you save are sentient, according to whose scale, by the way, but let's leave that out. What do you do with the non-sentients who have the same version of the virus? Well, that's a great question. Like, if somebody came to save this planet, would they save humanity, but then would they save all the dogs and cats as well? Would they know what animals to save? Would they know what animals are domesticated? No, and that's another question. I mean, I think for the most part, when you're talking about sentient beings, you're talking about, people, or you're talking about individuals. I don't think that would necessarily apply to dogs or cats or something like that, unless maybe it does. I mean, it depends how far you want to go. Maybe the development of dogs and cats would be affected because humanity disappeared. I don't know. And the idea that sentience, our version of sentience, could be different, and that non-sentience could be intelligent as well. We don't know. That's a good point. The vaccine starts another contagion that is worse than the first 50 years down the road, as antibiotics have the potential to do. Do you continue to save everyone every 50 years? Well, that's, again, that's a big problem. You have to decide that. I think it's a great question. Do you go around the galaxy looking for everyone to save? No, you don't do that. Maybe just the cute, fuzzy aliens, but not spiders. Look, I don't think it necessarily has to be cute or fuzzy. Look at the fact that Devil in the Dark. On Janus 6, Kirk and company found out what was going on that mining colony on Janus 6, and they found out it was the Horta. Now, you don't want to kill anybody. You don't want to kill intelligent life. You want to give somebody like that, you want to give the Horta, a mother, freedom to lead her life. I think that's only fair. What if your cure leads to the saved people being servants on their own planet 500 years down the road? At least you save them, right? Well, I mean, I see where you're going with that. But again, if it's something... look, you can only take a horse to water. You can't make the horse drink. If you save a civilization and then 500 years later, they descend into some horrible way of life, or they're actually victimizing their fellow citizens, that's not your problem. That wasn't the job. The job is not to be the custodian of a civilization. It's to help it when you can and move along. And if there's a way that you can help it more so they're not in the harm's way of a supernova, I'm sure that's one thing that you have to do. They've done that on the show. They've moved colonists from one place to another, and they're never the wiser. I don't think that that's a problem. According to Cortez's own society, he was doing the right thing every time he saved a soul. What if the aliens don't want to be healed or told what to do, even if it's in their own best interests? Or what if it's really not in their best interests? Do they get a choice? I would think aliens would get a choice in that matter. If it's not in their best interest and they reject you, then they reject the help. But you can't force it on them. By the way, once any of these issues have arisen, anything you do will tend to compound the problem. I don't necessarily think so. You got to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that... I just don't think that's true. I think people are smart. I'm optimistic, and I always think that people know what's up. The Federation doesn't play these games because human history has shown where this path leads time and time again. This is why Star Trek is compelling. It's not about superheroes or gods. It's about real difficult decisions that have consequences being made by fallible people. Hence why the Prime Directive exists in the Star Trek universe. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And if the Federation stopped Cortez, maybe they'd give him passage. I don't know. All of these are very, very, very good points. They are good points. Let's see what you all are saying over in the chatty room over here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Get this down there. Let's see. Bunyan Snipe says, due to my broadband failing, I missed the 6 of 1 episode today. In A, B, and C was Peter Bull's character. A, actually, Garnell, the character he played in the Fish on the Hook episode of Danger Man. He could have been. I didn't read enough up on it to find out if that was true or not, but it sounds good to me. Raymond Verrata sends in a tip and says, so if Star Trek Discovery goes to CBS, so does that mean less swearing? Has death amongst the crew? Less death amongst the crew? I mean, will they have to re-edit the scenes for family-friendly TV? I'll bet they will. I'll bet some of them have been re-edited. I'll be curious to see which ones they are, but it'll be interesting. But it's only the first season. Now, it's only the first season. Mr. Brown says, regarding Tenet, what can I say? James Bond meets sci-fi. There was a moment about 3/4 in when I thought, fuck, this is good. Hang on in there, Rob. You won't be disappointed. P.S. I think dry run for Bond 26. Regards. Well, that's what I've heard. That would be pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So, yeah, that is some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So, we shall see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? I said this was going to be a short show, and it is. 45 minutes in and out. Not even 45 minutes. We will be back, of course, at 7:30 tonight with the movie Swallow on Whining About Movies. It should be fun. I know this was a quick one. People are like, wait, what? We have Joshua Levesque here. We've got the Robert Pariso here and the Richard here, my moderators. I want to thank them for jumping into this quick show, just a quick one, a bite-sized Robservations show. Episode number 480 or 498. Crazy. I want to thank you for that. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, the Richard, and thank you all for jumping in. And you should all discuss the Prime Directive now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out of here. And I'm going to, I got work to do before I'm on Whining About Movies. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for the generous contributions to the channel. Please subscribe, please like, please do all of those things if you want to. If you don't. But if you want to, please do. If you want to help me out, do those things as well. So thank you all very much for that. Hopefully in the next couple days I will get my other camera back and all of that. But for now, no. But remember, everyone, wherever you go, that's the place to be. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a little Buckaroo Banzai for you. Remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. So tune in tonight. See a BL Ollie video. That's pretty damn funny. And, yeah, I want to thank you for indulging me this quick show. And I will say, every person you meet has a story to tell you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And have a better day. And see you tonight at 7:30. Be there. Swallow is a very interesting movie.